Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes! I hope you are not sick of the French yet, because apparently they're a pretty popular civ. You know, we clicked, I think 3 random games yesterday, and all of them went French versus Ottomans. Anyhow, here we are, back with our protagonist, Anton. And on the opposite side of the map. Hold on. I got some basics here. Do I have all the keys? No. And in fact, we're going to be figuring some of them out. But I do have some basics. In the top left, his opponent. The French. Orange. Person. GamerVader. Oh man, those were some botched intros. But you know what? We're figuring out hotkeys. We're casting for the first time in like 20 years. I don't think it's too bad. So you know, gamer, look at this. See this over. What do we call this? Like overspill? You know, it's just wasted tiles. There's no value in exploring the edge of this map, Vader. I'm just being hard on you, buddy. You know, we got another Ottoman versus French. This one, a little different than the past. We're gonna see it on Mongolian Heights. If you don't know a lot about Mongolian Heights, I'm pretty sure. Actually, this is not Mongolian Heights. This is. I don't know what map this is. If you maybe you can tell me if you're wiser than I am about this kind of stuff. But it's not too dissimilar. With the main differences you see on a map like this versus Mongolian Heights, sacred site instead of, you know, hashed out on the corner, we've got one in the middle as well. We still do have those corner sacred sites. And then typically on Mongolian Heights, you have like this kind of elevated area in the back that's going to have some deer and food supplies. Instead, we don't have that here. Pretty much all of your stuff is in front of you or laterally to the sides. So we look at the scouting patterns for each of our players today. That's quite a heap of sheep for Anton. Got himself no less than 13 there. And I think we've had a drop-off on the other side of the field for GamerVader. He's not too many, actually. Let's go look at his scout. Oh, boy. It's quite a deficit for GamerVader. So this is a nice advantage in the early game for our green Ottoman. And if you look at the scouting patterns, I gotta favor Anton's here. You know, this corner, he's really, not only does it look like he's covered more square footage, but he's also set himself up for a really nice left side scout up the map. If you're looking in the bottom right, you know, I know the main screen is just blank, up the center of the map, and then over to his opponent right at the time that players begin to finish their age up. So this early game scouting pattern from Anton, pretty much perfect. GamerVader is going to arrive early enough to see, well, not too much of note. You know, he's going to get his eyes on this Madrasa, which is, at least for, I can't speak for Ottoman, I don't know. But for Anton, it's been a pretty common landmark. Nothing too surprising, I don't think, here. You know, pulling off of gold, I don't want to say that's not uncommon for Ottoman as far as I know. You want to get those military schools down, so allocating some to wood, as I suspect. Actually, he's not doing. Wow. Okay, one of the things that is maybe a little notable is the lack of wood or gold income out of Anton. Pretty surprising there. So, GamerVader, meanwhile, over here gathering from these front deer, and I do like that. With the lack of a military school, not that he scouted this, so you know, I don't like it as a decision. Because he made it blind, and I think that's a little dangerous to do versus Ottomans. There are plenty of Ottomans who do Russian military school versus French. But I like it positionally. You know, he's getting this additional food advantage. He's using these resources in the early game, whereas if he gets pressured, he can fall back to his remaining sheep that are on the field, as well as these berry bushes. So he's using these kind of more risky resources at this stage. Anton hasn't scouted it yet, but he's got an opportunity here. It looks like the current pathing for his scout, it will take him actually by those units, and so he'll get a peek there. But whether or not he spots it, we'll have to find out. Now let's do a camera lock. I added a hotkey for this for observing, so that we can get an idea if if our players spot things or not. That was one of the things that was bugging me in our last cast. It was too hard to tell. And this is going to be a pretty tight mini-map awareness moment for Anton, if he's able to identify that. Now, whether or not it comes into play, he doesn't have a military school down quite yet. Here's a chance. We see him go into the scout, and he does. Wonderful play here out of Anton. Maybe lucky timing as we saw him pop over to that scout just before that happened, but either way, he's got to be pretty happy about that. Now, somehow my map just rotated quite significant. Oh. GamerVader with a very unique map angle here. Look at this. I have never seen a player do this in a replay. This guy likes to play with his own screen at the bottom and rotating his angle so that he can see further on the map, because of course with an isometric, I think it's isometric camera, but either case, at the top of your camera you have a little more visibility than you do at the bottom of your camera, and so you have to assume that this is why he's doing this. Is on his opponent's side of the field, he has a better chance to see further away. Pretty unique, and arguably well optimized, if a bit disoriented. All right, well, we'll be selective about how often we snap to GamerVader's camera. Let's head back over to a normal rotation with our Ottoman player. Now he's quite behind on points. I'm guessing that is the side effect of either having gathered less resources, which we do see in the bottom left. He has about 200 resources behind, and also having translated less of those resources into money. Looks like maybe we didn't miss any worker kills, but we do have quite a few forces here out of our French player GamerVader. Anton, I really love his position here. I mean, he dropped those sheep earlier. Here's another 7. If we double click into that, we're seeing he's got 9 alive. He's got another 7. That is 16 more sheep in addition to the corpses on the ground. He's looking at a beautiful position. I just don't love the lack. I think this is a fantastic place to wall right here to protect his foot villagers. Instead, he opts to drop a tower. Looks like he opted to drop the walls over here to protect the gold, which I do really like. But I think a wall here, honestly, it's 20 wood, would have served much the same purpose. And the tower's fine if you really want to double down on defense, if you're very concerned about this aggression. Let's see if he should be. If we toggle over to GamerVader, well, let's just toggle view here to make it a little easier for us. We can see he's got 2 knights on the field, but he's hanging back with them. As Anton would say, he's what's the term he's always using for his? I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna stick on this for a minute. Rally up. He's rallying up his knights. And he's gonna bring these in. I think now with 3, I'd be pretty shocked if we don't see him pushing here for some kind of harass, or maybe he's just gonna try to catch him off guard, hoping that Anton doesn't manage to scout those knights. We can see Anton now heading into the top right, but GamerVader. GamerVader does have some. Interesting. Nice find here for Anton. And I mean, I really like his position in the games, provided that as long as he can start putting out some units. His intel in the game, the sheep count in the game, he just needs to go ahead and start punishing these units from GamerVader. Because Anton not reciprocating, with that kind of greed. Instead, this starts to feel maybe a little like overkill to me. 2 towers, and mind you, they're placed pretty far away. So say a knight comes in, if you were to respond to that a little late, you're gonna have to run these villagers into the tower. But it does give them that visibility, I guess, which is nice. Heading up into the top right, we see the scout go down, but not too many sheep left here for Anton, so he's not gonna be too sad about that. Just could have gotten a bit more value out of that scout. All right, sipahi, catch this first trader, and I mean, this is a dream right here. Now, he will get the depot with his 76 gold, most likely. Oh, he goes down before he gets to cash out at all, and that's a really nice win for Anton. Let's see if he can find this second trader, but you gotta be happy with that. Now, we can see GamerVader already heading down into the bottom right to deal with this. Oh, God, that camera, I just can't, Vader. But the knights are coming. Anton moves the sipahi closer to the market. I don't love that. I like them sitting where they were because they were able to kill that trader. And this trader surely, even with getting rerouted there, is going to be able to cash out. And there it is. 76 gold for GamerVader. He's going to be happy about that as he's continuing to try to make knights. But here come the knights into the sipahi. This is an important moment for Anton to catch. You don't want to lose these sipahi. Let's take a look at his cam. He is looking at it, manages to retreat. And those sipahi are going to... Nope, one of them does get taken out with a very long-range sword attack. You know, of course, if the attack does get... The animation starts, the unit does not have to be in range of the attack for it to connect. And so that sipahi, despite being out of range of that knight, the knight's still able to hit it. So, what do we got to get into? A couple military buildings going down. 2 archery ranges for Anton. Interesting decision. Interesting decision. 2 archery ranges, but certainly massing up. I mean, this is a lot of production here. This is far more than you're going to be able to spend on one base. This is going to be 3 stables and 2 archery ranges at only 36 villagers. Compare that on the other side of the field. We do have 1 stable, 2 barracks, and an archery range. And so the archery ranges are going to work out fairly well, likely here, versus those stables. But we do need to see continued pressure. You know, every unit that Anton is making right now should be pressured into these markets, whether it's this market or this market. He's going to need, you know, ideally you set up a scout or a tower in the secret wood or something here so that you can see if those traders get rerouted to hide from your sipahi. Anton now going to come in looking for additional workers, but all of these deer have been cleaned up, and that's a testament to what we were talking about earlier in this game, that GamerVader decided to take that economic risk early with the lack of a military school. Mine out these units. The sipahi now get caught by the knights! And no, another sipahi. Okay, this would be a meta that goes down, but Anton's going to get out of there safely. We'll keep a wary eye on those, but he should be able to get out. Now we see these berries being taken, right? And this is what we're talking about earlier, to go back to that thought briefly of, you know, these units being able to be taken care of, taking care of these deer. Now I am a little worried here. Good, Anton catches, does do the reroute with these units, but at this stage of the game, these sipahi are significantly cheaper. You know, if you take a look at the cost of these sipahi that are coming out, we see that they're 120 and 40, as opposed to the knight cost of, I believe, 140, 100 as well. Yeah, 140, 100. And so a solid, what is that, about 100 resources less. In fact, yeah, it's 80 resources less, and if we translate, you know, gold, of course, being a little more of a limited resource, we should see more units, and we do see significantly more units out here for Anton. They're just not on the field. He's choosing to only harass with these 4 units, and I don't love that. If he had had those 13 sipahi, you know, if he had been reinforcing out, let's say his rally point was to here, and he's running around with these sipahi causing havoc with just the 4, but the remainder is sitting here, then these units would just be dying, and he would be forcing his opponent to react to the sipahi raids. But sitting at home and balling up his resources. Let's see if he's adjusted that rally point now. No, it looks like the rally's still here in his main base, and I think there's an opportunity here for him to, yeah, just, you know, whether it's to this market, whether it's to this market, whether he wants to shift click to here and then right click up to here, but rallying at least the stables to a bit more of a useful position, I think could be really effective for him. Now Castle Age comes in here for GamerVader. Looks like if we take a look, he did go for the guild hall, which is expected. As Anton comes in looking for some damage. Now, what is he not seeing? Well, he's not seeing the woodcutters up here. He is going to do that split-pronged attack that we were talking about. Now, still rallying his units at home, so they're not as powerful as it could be. GamerVader trying to find him, but just cannot. Looks like Anton's gonna swing over here and find another trader for his troubles. But that trader, he's targeting the mill instead. Not exactly what you want to do. He's going to target the market up here, finds the trader, but not before GamerVader starts moving into position. But still another nice pickoff. No, I would say GamerVader right now perhaps a slightly positive on the ROI. Now he does lose tempo for that economic ROI. Great opportunity here to turn on these knights. Will Anton spot it if we go swap to take a look at his camera? If I can manage to get over to his cam. We see that he sees it. But he's retreating, which is not the play you want to make. The Spearman is completely out of position. Finally, he spots it, goes in here. This is where you want to stutter step forward, surround those units. That's not going to happen. He's just going to get one Knight and 2 Spearmen for his troubles. Knights turn around, get their charge off. Anton does pick off a second Knight. And so still interesting rotation there. Ideally, you didn't want to turn there. You know, maybe double click on the horses so they can run away a little more quickly. In the top right, we see that's Market did take some damage, and the villager that was mining here at this lumber mill taken out. But as we were saying, a little bit of a positive ROI here for the French player. It's not the sole reason that we're seeing this increased collection rate out of French. French, of course, does have other economic advantages as well from their cheaper upgrades. We can see in the top left that he has left, in the top right, that GamerVader has been leveraging those with +2 on his crosscut saw, the fertilization at +1 wheelbarrow, and improved pickaxe as well. Sipahi are going to get hit here by some horsemen, and interestingly, they opt to run from that fight, but maybe a good choice as the knight is coming in to reinforce. Sipahi, of course, happy to take on horsemen with their additional 25 HP. Now I'm going to pull back. Now, Anton's forces in the bottom right, not exactly in the best location. Ideally, you know, continuing that market harass, just making sure, ideally we make sure that GamerVader wishes he never made that market in the first place, and dedicating kind of everything you can to your efforts. That can really pay off dividends. We do hear that relic get picked up here from GamerVader, and that's the first one lifted for the game. With GamerVader and Castle Age, there's got to be something on Anton's mind. You can see he's shaping up for Castle. We see the 1,000 food and the 700 gold, so probably getting ready to throw down. Oh, in fact, he already threw down that Imperial armory, and so kind of surprised to see him pulling so much money here. If he can dump those resources and make a shove here, his military value already far eclipsing that of his opponent. We can see 4,000 army to just 1,800. This is, I don't want to say this is a GG moment for Anton, but it's certainly a moment where he could go in and deal substantial damage with this army. He could both kill this market, pressure these villagers on the berries, and probably kill all of this production at the front of his base. But can Anton detect the significant military advantage that he currently has? Well, he might be a little preoccupied as he kids Castle Age. He's got 12 idle villagers. He's opting to throw down 2 more military schools. Likely picking up the Vizier point that he allocated to those. We see 3 military schools, in fact, going down, as he never put down that feudal age military school. And so despite that, Anton with a massive military advantage. And this is those kinds of moments in a game where you want to make sure that, you know, when you have invested so substantially into military, that you get yourself an ROI, that you do something with that army. And we see Anton finally decide to do exactly that as he Sipahi go into the fray, but opt to just run by these completely exposed 12 villagers. And these are the kinds of moments that make or break a game, folks, because with this massive military advantage, you have to be hampering the economy of your opponent. Anton's not going to do that here. Instead, he's I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. He's Sipahi pulling out to maybe go back and join the rest of his army, a highly effective raiding force that was perfectly positioned to leverage extreme damage. Failing to do so, he's going to rotate instead now and go over and hit this archery range, which of course is going to be very quickly thwarted. Decides to perhaps activate this fortitude, but that's not going to do much for him. Or that's actually likely a meter. No, there's no meter in the force. I do believe, yeah, that was here. He activates fortitude, but these villagers still completely exposed now, rotating over to gold, and the Sipahi going to run to the right. Not too much for his effort here. Anton just getting, you know, a little tickle damage here on the archery range, and that's about it. This is pretty much the entirety of GamerVader's army right now. If you look in the bottom left, you see just 2245. I suspect he's got a couple units elsewhere. It looks like it's going to be these Rangers, and Anton with just a massive wall that could simply just walk over these forces right now, but that's going to be something he has to realize. So let's take a moment and get into his head so we can understand exactly what this player is attempting to do right now. Looks like he's back at home, maybe evaluating some decisions around his town center. Does manage to take out that market. Likely, you know, doing some F1 keys, queuing up some production. We can see on the top right. Oh, that's GamerVader. In the top left, excuse me. No, just a fitted leatherwork, almost completed. But yeah, I mean, this is a bit surprising. Anton, typically a player that really likes to go for a lot of harass, try to deal damage, but in this case, perhaps overthinking the harass component of his of his strategy and not realizing the extreme advantage that he has over his opponent, as well as the extreme vulnerability of his opponent in the top left. Maybe now going to make a move to do something with this army that he has invested so many resources into throughout the course of this game. Would also love to see a new lumber mill out of him. But no, it seems that he's just going to go in for another brief raid here as the core of his army does reside in the center of the map. Now, you know, a lot of this army is Sipahi, of course, and his opponent has produced 13 spearmen, but not too difficult to simply run away from those spearmen and attack different locations. And that's exactly what he's going to do right now, but coming up to the top right, and he's just not able to find the resources of his opponent. Love the kiting here, running away with these. He needs to drop this single archer out of this group. Maybe not having the correct hotkeys set up for selecting ranged versus selecting melee units. Or not controlling his control groups. Now Imperial Age hits for GamerVader, and this might start to feel a little scary for Anton. He's going to opt to engage here against these halberds, and I don't see this going too well. The other side of the halberds actually retreat after the engagement, so he's going to get some value here. You know, 3 or 4 Sipahi do go down, but ultimately he's able to deal some damage. I think the greater upside is going to be that Anton is now going to spot in the top left. He's going to spot this very soft underbelly of GamerVader that his Sipahi are now running into. And if we look at the camera of Anton, we can see he's looking back at his base right now. But surely, this time, he will finally see in the top left the vulnerability, and he does. And he's going to go in and attack these very vulnerable farms. Runs by them at first, but does turn around and issue the attack. In the top right, his Sipahi are under attack. He's going to find that, see that it was a red keep that his French opponent did go for that 4th page landmark. And surely the army is now on the way for GamerVader. Here comes some archers. Those aren't going to be too much of an issue with Fortitude still active. Anton could simply activate that and push into those and likely prevail. Those are veteran archers, but with veteran Sipahi and with, well, he does have plus, no, he does not have any actually plus ranged armor. That's GamerVader with some very powerful army upgrades. I'm actually not sure if those Sipahi could win that fight. I think they could. But he's going to pull out for now. Now, did Anton manage to spot that gold mine? Not entirely sure, but we're looking in the bottom now as his army with 9,000 resources invested into army. Anton has the opportunity to truly go for the killing blow. And so we're going to watch this army march towards, maybe march towards GamerVader. You know, put this game to sleep. He certainly has an opportunity to. The red keeps very much, you know, a threatening force, and without bombards or trebuchets, not the thing you want to push into. But there's just so many other soft targets that Anton has identified. Right? He's seen the army of his opponent, seen how small it is. He's seen these mills. He hasn't seen that mining camp here, but he's seen. You know, the farms back in the main as well. He sees all these woodcutters, and yeah, that army is just now marching potentially to victory here. Though we do see just about 2,000 supply of units here popping up for GamerVader, more in the queue most likely, and this could swing things pretty intensely. As a 4th relic is coming back as well for GamerVader. The economy really starting to come into force here as we see. Look in the bottom left, 5,000. Resources now for GamerVader. Anton needs to take this fight. He's going to. Janissaries coming into big effect here on those forces. Going to make a really big difference. And Sipahi able to get on top of the range. The Mangonels with a great volley on those archers in the back. And there's really not much of an opportunity here for GamerVader to fight back. Janissaries continuing to fire on, mind you, these elite Royal Knights, but they really don't stand a chance against so many Janissaries. 9,000 now to 2,000. Now the production from GamerVader is going to continue, but here's the thing. Anton intelligently splits off several sipahi and comes up here to the top left. Now he's targeting down the mill, not exactly what you want to do. Seems he might have right-clicked on the mill rather than just move commanding to go to that area. Don't want to see him push towards this red keep. We need to make sure to stay away from that. Red keep damage is going to be pretty significant, but so far he's not in range of it. He's going to fall back here, rally up his units. Where's this rally from his army? It's in his base. This is a huge mistake out of Anton. We see in the bottom left, his army is now 4 times the size of his opponent. But most of that army's at home. He's simply not rallying it into the match. Knights are going to go for the mangonels. One of them gets taken out, but that's perfectly fine. The sipahi do just fine against those, but the problem right now, Anton, although he's done a little bit of economic damage, most of his army's at home. He spots this. He's going to send them in to reinforce, but at the same time he continues to engage. Now, is it a huge mistake? No. He cleans up those forces, and now he's 8 times the army of his opponent. His opponent down to just 67 supply. Anton at 110. Fantastic position. He just needs to take out these economic targets. So many villagers still available here. So many villagers up in the wood mine, very exposed. Even here on the farms in the main base, not protected by this red keep. This red keep only protecting the production. So Anton, all we need to do at this point with an army now still 3 times the size, although it's not imperial. His opponent is just too small to be able to effectively combat this army if he were to push now. However, if GamerVader can get his feet under him and get himself out to maybe, let's say half or 3/4 the army supply of Anton, that's where your elite Royal Knights can make the difference. That's where your elite Arbaletiers can make the difference. Not the strongest unit, mind you, against those sipahi. Not very useful at all to make, in fact. Really only 2 Lancers in this composition right now out of Anton. And a Great Bombard joins the fray. Now, will Anton kind of be influenced by this Great Bombard and think, I should go for that red keep? I mean, his army certainly seems positioned to do it, but that's simply not what you want to do here, Anton. Fighting up against elite units with only 1 Great Bombard into a red keep and your only castle age is a quick way to find yourself into defeat. So instead, we see him rotate towards the top again. He's going to push towards these farms. He's going to maybe find these gold miners in the bottom left and hopefully going to push towards this town center. If we just see him click towards this town center, I think we start to see the beginning of the end here for GamerVader. With only 3,000 army supply, he's not at that critical halfway point we were talking about earlier. Ideally 2/3. With such a really not a very useful composition, the mangonels open up on the horses. Would have liked to see the sipahi here, instead of engaging, following themselves up around those mangonels, and see the mangonels open up on those archers. The mangonels not firing correctly here. 2 volleys on the horses so far. The Great Bombard gets its first volley off on the archers. The mangonel finally now getting a decent volley off, but there goes all of GamerVader's army. And Anton now with the opportunity to simply roll into the economy of his opponent. Will he spot it? He does come into the range now of this red keep. And this is not exactly what we want to be doing here. We certainly don't want to push harder into this red keep. Anton fully engaged on that red keep right now, taking a lot of damage. You see sipahi just falling in droves. The Bombard starting to take up these production. The sipahi really struggling to be able to engage effectively on the archers here, but the answer is they don't really need to. Still in the range of this red keep, and we're just seeing the bodies continue to pile up. Hopefully the reinforcement path still at home, and we could see a repeat of what we saw earlier in this match, which is that Anton with a significant army lead, but because he's not reinforcing, there's no reinforcements trickling across the map. Instead they're pulling up at home, and so his army could slowly get whittled away, especially again as he continues to engage on this red keep, and we just see more sipahi going to continue to fall here. What I'd love to see instead is just a simple run by. Come to me. Yeah, you force him to come to you, but instead, his entire army just melting in front of this red keep. Now I think Anton deciding that this red keep perhaps is too much of a problem, he's going to try to engage into it, but that's a huge mistake on multiple counts. He's under the red keep at this point, and this economy just completely untouched, and unfortunately, Anton with a game-winning opportunity here is now going to be retreating and potentially losing some of his siege units on that retreat. Now he is going to spot that his units weren't retreating. Will he this time set his rally point, realizing the kind of how this is hurting him? No, he doesn't. Continues to reinforce those units at home. And the Great Bombard even now under threat. Will the Elite Royal Knights be able, or will the Sipahi get here in time? The Sipahi need to be on top of these Knights, though. The Knights could identify a chance. Their HP is starting to get kind of low, though. Looks like they're only going to be able to take out the Mangonel. They do target it, but there's not enough left. In fact, the Knights swap over and deal with the Sipahi. They rotate back to the Mangonel. Is it in time? The Mangonel down. Yeah, the Mangonel will maybe fall. It's still alive. Finally, the Mangonel goes down. But we see somehow Anton's army, again, GamerVader, those, I think these Royal Knights are so expensive. And if you look at the economy at the top right, although they are Elite Royal Knights, they're taking pretty unfavorable engagements. And the Elite Arbaletiers, they really don't counter anything in Anton's comp right now. There are no heavy units in this composition. And so continuing to spend the Arbaletiers, yes, they do have this deploy Pavis, which helps against the melee units. But I would love to see exactly what we're seeing here. More halberds, because his economy, although we saw that greedy opening with the market, honestly, the economy of GamerVader is not that far ahead. You look in the bottom here, in the bottom center, we see just 8,000 resources gathered more over the course of this game, about a 12% economic boost. And with army distributions as bad as we're seeing in the bottom left, where Anton's army currently 4 times the size of his opponent, when you have an economy that's 20% larger, but you're in, this late in the game, half an hour now, and your army is a third of the size of your opponent, it's got to tell you something. You're not taking the best engagements. In fact, you're probably taking pretty terrible engagements, because the Red Palace basically killed, about 10,000 supply. I'd love to see a kill counter on this thing. Feature request out to Relic. All right, Sipahi gonna go in for what really they do best. Heading in here to try to deal some damage, and Anton deciding, you know what, I need to go for Imperial. And because of that, we are seeing a little bit of a catch-up on this army opportunity here. For GamerVader, he's up to 5,000. And the Sipahi going to head up into the top once again. And I just feel like, I do wonder at this point, is Anton kind of starting to feel like I'm banging my head against a wall. I just can't deal with this red keep. And the problem is, that if that's what's happening right now, because you gotta feel frustrated knowing your opponent has no military but losing the fight, you might start to tilt a little. And the important thing is to not, right? To realize, no, it's not the red keep. It's actually the fact that you're thinking about the red keep, that you're focused on the red keep, and that you're not just ignoring the red keep and going on to win the game. These monasteries in the back, this guild hall, these villagers. The other thing is identifying the rally point, which maybe it does appear that the rally point issue has... I'm wrong. I saw this rally. I don't know why. I thought it ran through here. I apologize. All right. Big engagement coming down now. Double the army size for Anton, but notably veteran Sipahi. These are not elite. Normal Janissaries, not elite. And I fear that this engagement is not going to go Anton's way, because this is that halfway point. It's a halfway point we were talking about earlier. Now it still could go his way. We are seeing pressure here on Anton, and that's a consequence of these Arbaletiers just being such... they're really... I don't even want to say they're a soft counter. They're not a counter. They are not a counter. And these Mangonels are hard counter to the Arbaletiers. And so although this fight could have cleanly gone the way of GamerVader, well, it does. It does actually go his way. But it was closer than it needed to be, and Anton now on the retreat. And that's a consequence of the anti-timing here. GamerVader realizing that Anton had hit Imperial with these Imperial researches. If we look in the top left, we see the Imperial Sipahi on the way. We see the Imperial Janissary on the way. And if those had hit prior to that engagement, that would have been a very different fight. Anton making a bit of a mistake, maybe overconfidence, pushing forward, not realizing that he needed to hold back until those upgrades were complete. And now, once again, fighting. He's fighting to try to save this Great Bombard, and I do think that that's worthwhile, but that Great Bombard needs to consistently be running away. Maybe if he can spare a village or two, if he can spare the APM, toss it onto that Bombard, get a repair going. Meanwhile, some Sipahi raids going to go over here to the bottom left, and I do love this attack out of Anton. But at home, he's going to have to. This is where that rally is going to come into use, because he needs to make sure these horses are rallying backwards, and he does. Building a lot more production. Looks like he was pulling up quite a bit of wood and trying to find a way to spend it. Very short on food right now, with just 27 villagers on food for some reason. Why is this? Looking in the bottom, I think Anton needs to rotate maybe some more resource or villagers over to food, because he clearly doesn't have enough right now. Coming in with just 27. This is actually starting to look pretty dire for Anton as the tables have turned now. Oh, how the turntables have turned. 8,000 for GamerVader and just 6,000 for Anton. And this all off the back of that engagement right here in the middle of the map, as Anton had pressed out into a vulnerable position with his siege before his elite upgrades were on the field. And it's also really a testament to the elite upgrade finally kicking in, but I do wonder if it's too little too late. GamerVader with now a 14,000 resource gap over his opponent. We can see he has completed, if you look in the top right, folks, every single upgrade he can do for his economy, for his military outside of university upgrades. And if we take a look at these horses, oh no, he hasn't done the husbandry. I don't believe +6. I want to find if he has a uni. Okay, he has done the ranged upgrade, and he's now working on the royal upgrades, not being biology or husbandry, as he's French, of course. He does get an extra 5% with these royal knights, so they're going to be exceptionally strong. And this is where the sipahis start to fall apart as a core part of your unit comp. Not in regards to them still being useful or that they should still be included, but they carry less of the weight. Sipahi in the early and mid game can really function as kind of the all-arounder. They can kind of do it all. They tank, they deal damage. But as you get to the late game, they really need to be supported by a healthy contingent of Janissaries against a composition like this. And we see just 2 Janissaries right now in this composition for Anton. And between that and only +1 ranged attack, and only +1 anti-range, and only +1 melee, I don't know that he's going to be able to fend off this attack. The Mangonels are needing to get glorious hits. We see the Bombard dealing significant damage, but now the Royal Knights coming in. So tanky. Even without the Royal Bloodlines, they run in, they take out all the siege. The Sipahi are just not going to be able to deal the damage that they need to take out these elite horses and the Arbeletiers, regardless of their complete and utter uselessness against Sipahi. They are still going to be able to play the role that they need to and deal range damage in these narrow chokes. Force Anton to fall back, and I think that this is the beginning of the end. Anton's going to find a genie in a lamp or something that's going to pull his wishes into play here as he tries to find a way back. Targeting farms down is just not the way. Going to need to find these very vulnerable farms that surely he's been looking to thwart all game as he's been trying to go up there repeatedly, but GamerVader just keeps replacing the villagers. Fixing his spawn here is Anton realizing that he's spawning in the wrong direction. He's going to try to build some barracks in the back line, but it's clear to us as a viewer here, this seems to be the beginning of the end. He is getting some Janissaries into play, but I was mistaken. That was not the elite Janissary upgrade. I believe that was a university upgrade that increases the damage that Janissaries do. Because if we take a look at our archery range here, we can see he has not started this upgrade. That's particularly painful because that upgrade is so inexpensive, with only costing 350 gold for the Ottomans. And yet, those Janissaries are so incredibly important against an opponent who has fully upgraded 3 Royal Knights with Royal Bloodlines. You can see those Janissaries just wholly unable to deal with the overwhelming force here from GamerVader. And now the production begins to fall for Anton as he looks for any semblance of a way out. Let's take a look at his POV and see what's going through his mind. Producing some units as we see that camera stall. Just 6 units to his name at the moment. Thinking about, well, how can I possibly find myself out of this position? Economy's fairly strong still at 43, 12, 10 to 49, 17, 11. But somehow, you know, with what we would say is perhaps an even economy or perhaps slightly behind, the problem is not the income, but rather how to shore up this gap. If you look in the bottom left, you'll see 16,000 resources invested into the army of GamerVader and just 3,000 for Anton. And Anton, not only does he have to complete multiple university upgrades and attack and defense upgrades in order to render his army equal to his opponent, so he has to complete all these upgrades, he also has to match that 17,000, and so he's got roughly 14,000 resources to make up here. And if we look in the top left, we'll see that that's, well, the total income of about 2,000 a minute, 14,000. We're going to be here for 7 minutes for Anton to be able to even catch up on army supply. And I just don't see that as being practical. These units are going to be able to deal too much damage over the next 7 minutes. They're going to kill a lot of that production. That's going to make it harder for Anton to be able to produce units. Some of those units are also going to get caught as they're spawning. Let's go see if any of that's happening in the top left as they're continuing to spawn out of these. Well, he is actually, looks like Anton has moved most of his production over to these buildings. He's not producing out of these vulnerable buildings up top. Love to see that. Now at 6,000. It's still a 12,000 gap, another 6 minutes of 2,000 a minute before we can close that gap. And the problem is also the military upgrades for Anton are just not significant enough. Still, finally those elite Janissaries coming into play. He's going to be able to rally up 13 of those. And this is the point where GamerVader is banking some serious resource. If you look at the top right, 7,000, 6,000, 4,000. So not only does Anton have to overcome this army, he also has to then use that army to somehow deplete the resources of his opponent, because that is a hefty bank. Now, if you're GamerVader in this position, you can start considering deleting some of those villagers and bolstering up this army to make it even more insurmountable, because you know that your opponent cannot do so. Your opponent is doing everything it can to try to produce units, raise money, raise funds, and you simply don't have to as the French in this position with a bank like this. Now, he's of course got more he can fall back on as well. 3,000 gold sitting in his guild hall. Anton shoring up to engage here, but this is certainly not the right play. His army only at 10,000, the French player at 18,000. He's going to fight to protect his production. This is a huge mistake. Anton's army, meager at best. I mean, the Mangonels, maybe they'd get off some decent volleys, but there's just no way that he wins this fight with inferior upgrades and engages with half the army size of his opponent. For some reason, feeling like now was the time. But it sincerely wasn't. The Mangonels down 2,000 and any hope of a rally vanishing in mere seconds here for Anton. And the GG gets called as he knew that was it. Well, good game out of Anton. Unfortunately, that red palace, just too much of a magnet of attention, I think is what so much of that game fell down to. We will take a brief look at the timeline, as I think we want to just, we want to really capture visually the amount of time that our Ottoman players spent over his opponent in military. So we pull up the military count. Honestly, I don't think the graph does it justice. So much of this game, the military for GamerVader was just in such a dire position. But finally in the late game, the Imperial Age, the economy, all of the military investment that Anton made through the game, unable to pay off. That was a good game though, and we will, I don't know. If we do a next one, we'll see you in it. GG.